Well, the RNC, of course, has a new plan to win back the presidency. You heard about it this weekend. Replace NBC and CNN's Brian Williams and Anderson Cooper with Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity. The Washington Examiner is reporting that the conservative radio hosts are being seriously looked at as 2016 debate moderators. Meanwhile, the RNC is going to bar CNN and NBC from hosting presidential primary debates because of the network's plans to run Hillary Clinton-themed shows. The committee voted unanimously Friday to exclude the networks. And while it was reported that Fox was in talks with NBC to produce a series, the New York Times is now reporting that the studio is not going to take part. According to the Times, CBS and the Fox network passed on picking up the miniseries, and Fox officials said that had nothing to do with politics and everything to do with profits. They didn't like the money deal. Priebus defended the RNC's vote as part of an effort to take back the primary process from the last cycle.
I'm trying to build a party that's year-round. I'm trying to fix a data and digital operation. I'm trying to get a hold of a primary process and a debate debacle that, as you know, I've called a traveling circus. The fact of the matter is, I've got to protect this party and our nominees. Look, if you're not going to have 23 debates, these guys are making it a lot easier for us to pare that down to a reasonable number in front of people and entities that actually give a darn about the future of the Republican Party.
You were also.
Hey, Chuck Todd, let's bring in Chuck Todd right now. Chuck, what do you think about the developments this past weekend?
Well, look, if the RNC is trying to limit the number of debates, that's smart, because that will mean what? That about half the Republican field from 2012, if they didn't have the debates, they wouldn't have run, right? They simply ran for exposure to get a talk show, or for exposure to get a radio deal, or a columnist, or a deal with Fox, or whatever it is. Their reasons are running. It wasn't really because they thought they had a viable shot. You know, one of the things on the whole celebrification of the presidential cycle is that it has allowed for this underbelly of candidates. Whether it's Herman Cain or Dennis Kucinich, people like that to say, hey, I can show up, I get to be on national television, on various cable networks or various, so if you do that, then that is smart tactical politics. Now, it is kind of funny, Joe. Imagine if the RNC put the same effort that they've been putting in this to get immigration reform passed. I think they might have gotten that done by now.
Chuck, Mike, I have a question, because you probably know this a lot better than anyone here. How much power does the RNC actually have over whether or not a debate takes place? Can't the candidates just circumvent the RNC and say, yeah, we'll do a debate on NBC or CNN?
Of course. Candidates, it all depends on whether the candidates do this. The only precedent that there is 2004, and the DNC decided to play this role, and all of the folks that were running at the time agreed to it. Now, that said, so that meant that the DNC decided they gave a debate, I believe, to every. Even Fox had one. NBC had a couple. One was, I think, on MSNBC, and one was on CNBC, ABC. They spaced it out. I think they did 6 over 6 months, so that it was one a month, and they chose the debate site. So there is some precedent to do this, but all the candidates have to agree to it. And I remember there were still rogue, quote-unquote, forums. I remember moderating a forum, an AARP forum, in 2004. It was not a sanctioned debate, but 5 of the 7 guys showed up who were campaigning in Iowa. So it depends on what the campaigns do. I think there's going to be motivation by the front-runner campaigns, by the people that actually want to be the nominee, to allow the RNC to play this role, because they never want to have to say no, but they would love to have somebody else say, you know what, let's limit the number of these things.
Chuck, you had an interesting point this weekend on Meet the Press. You were saying that Hillary Clinton emerging as a front-runner is bad news for the Obama administration. Why?
Well, it's the timing of it. Right, there's lame duck status happens to any second-term president in 2 phases. One is in Washington, in the ongoing back and forth with Congress. At some point, you sort of just run out of political capital. The president is running up against the clock on that over the next year. But then the second phase, of course, is, are you leader of your own party? And at some point, the outgoing president is no longer, sort of is a leader at large, but is no longer the rallying point. And if you're Barack Obama, you want that to start as late as you possibly can. When you're watching all of this movement around Hillary, whether it's the super PACs, whether it's grassroots organizing by Emily's List, whether it's what Hillary herself is doing with various speeches, that is something that accelerates that process. And it's an unintended consequence. Nobody's saying that this is what Hillary Clinton's trying to do or anything like that. But this is an unintended consequence, and it's going to make it harder for Barack Obama to stay leader, to sort of be able to marshal resources. OFA is struggling enough as it is to prove itself as an entity outside of a presidential campaign. Having to compete with Hillary Clinton makes it even tougher.
So, Tina, it's a problem, obviously, for Barack Obama, because you're already having people line up holding fundraisers for Hillary, promoting Hillary to be president.
I'm not so sure it's so great for Hillary Clinton, actually. I mean, I think there is the kind of the curse of the front runner situation for her now. This is just getting so much kind of focus on her, so much early, garbage about her, so much, anger about her, which will build. And in a way, by the time that she runs, she'll be an old story again, which I do think is a problem. It's like you can see the freshness of a Chris Christie if he were to be the nominee. A newer story, a fresher story, and that was one of her problems last time, was that she felt like old news. So I don't necessarily think it's so great for Hillary Clinton that all of this.
I'm with you, Tina. I don't understand why she's out so early right now. I don't know why they didn't take the entire year off.
And it
might have been better. Actually,
we will all remember back to 2007. There was already Clinton fatigue.
Right.
Remember when David Geffen gave his famous interview to the New York Times and just ripped into the Clintons? You could almost hear, the entire Democratic establishment quietly going, here, here, because there was Clinton fatigue, and that was 2007. Right. I'm not good in math. I went to the University of Alabama. I don't have to be good at math. We're number one again. So I only have to count to number one, Sam Stone.
Where's Al Hunt?
Number one. Exactly. But, I mean, my gosh, that was 6 years ago we were talking about Clinton fatigue. We're going to hear about this for the next 3 years?
Right.
I agree with all of you guys. That's
because there was a golden thing going on for her when she left the State Department,
right?
And suddenly it's back into Clinton land. And I don't think that press is great. Obviously, the Huma Abedin stuff hasn't been very helpful either.
Thank you.
Well, there is the other side of this, which is if you're the Clintons, you sit there and say, all right, it's inevitable that she's going to get started being treated as a politician. I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I don't agree with what they're doing. But you say get it all out early. Lose the shine from independents and Republicans now, get it all out of the way, and then slowly build back up. Sort of make the negative stuff feel like old news.
I'm not on either side of this. I'm on the side of this, that this is pointless speculation, and we have no idea what is going to be the situation.
Thomas, if only we could be as cold-hearted and removed as Sam Stein.
Well, that'd be great.
And all of us should send President Bill Clinton a happy birthday.
It's today's birthday.
Happy birthday, Bill.
67.
Happy 67.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
they're the big dog. All right. Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chuck Todd. I greatly appreciate it. We'll see you at 9 o'clock. Go Dodgers, huh? That came out of nowhere, man.
They lost yesterday. I don't know what we're going to do.
What's the record in the last 50 games, Chuck?
42-9. Well, what are we now? 41-9.
Wow, it's amazing.
After losing yesterday.
That's insane. All right, Chuck, thanks.